All right. Hi there. I'm Jen Hurd, and welcome to the Thrive Through Life Change event, where we're going to learn how to regain your personal, powerful energy and create an inspiring vision and a balanced life when you're going through or expecting to go through a significant life change. And also, with everything going on in the world around us today, I think it's a real pertinent topic. So, the way this came about is I'm a professional organizer by trade for over 30 years, and I watched a lot of clients over the years come to me in a state of flux, in a state of personal change. And some navigated the change really well, and some emotionally and otherwise did not. And so, culminating with the fact that over the COVID forced vacation, I had one pass away. She was expecting to have something happen that did not happen because it wasn't permitted to during COVID, and she laid down in her bed and gave up. And when that happened, that was a huge turning point for me. I said, you know what, there's a lot more people I can help, and we need to prevent these sorts of things. We need to equip people better for life change and to have more positive outlook in spite of things that may be happening to them that are not by choice. And so I went in search of amazing experts that have amazing and instructive life experiences. And that's how, and in fact, I knew Laura before this, but Laura is one of the greats in this department. This is Laura Khalil. She is a speaker, teacher, host of the Top 100 Apple podcast, which can be found everywhere podcasts are available, called Brave by Design. And she focuses on helping women achieve incredible success in their careers and lives. And she's a master storyteller, consults with corporate clients like Twitter and GE and Intel on how to use storytelling to improve the lives of their customers. And Laura's training really unlocks the code to becoming a magnetic personality and helping women to learn how to lead with empathy and live abundantly. So welcome, Laura.
Oh, Jen, thank you.
Yeah, I'm thrilled
So
to have
good to be here. I'm so excited to chat with you today. I cannot wait to dig into this conversation, and I hope that folks who are listening buckle up, because we're going to start one way, and I hope that by the end of it you feel that you have some keys to empower yourself in some of the more challenging areas of life, especially when going through change.
Yeah. It's such a really tumultuous time right now. So I think the subject is it resonates with me because of my background, but then watching the world just from, what's going on online and live and in person, it's a little bit crazy. And I think people really need the support, and I think this will be really valuable. So let's jump in. So Laura, I've known you a long time. I've known you a very long time. But I really never knew your whole story, and I don't think you did either until recently. So I heard it on the radio first off. That was the first way I found out about this. But I just think it's amazing. So
Jen, did you know when you heard it on the radio? I can't remember if you'd seen that it was going to post, or were you just listening and you said, "Wait a minute, I know Laura Khalil. What is this about?"
No, I think I knew it was coming, and then I tuned in because I was like, well, what in the world?
That is so funny.
We were neighbors. That's our history.
Yeah.
We were neighbors growing up. So really, I feel like I've known you forever, but this was a whole nother level of change right here.
Yeah.
So tell everyone about your big paradigm shift.
Right. What are we talking about? All right. So if you guys are watching the video of this, you will notice how even in comparison to Jen, I look pretty much like wall paste. I am very, very pale. And that is, kind of unremarkable, except for the fact that I grew up in a Middle Eastern household. My father is Egyptian, my mom is Lebanese, and I look a lot like my mom. I've always been told that, but it did not escape me as a child. And increasingly as I grew up, how different I looked from pretty much all of my family. I'm literally a different color than my family. And that was really tough as a kid, feeling like I didn't belong in my community or just feeling different. And so back in 2013, I decided to do some DNA testing through 23andMe. And the results came back and they said, well, you're half we think you're half Italian. And I thought, okay, well, that seems a little odd. And then there was a Middle Eastern component as well. And I thought, well, maybe these results aren't very accurate, whatever. And I kind of dismissed it. until about 2 years ago when I received a message on 23andMe from a woman who was a genetic match. Now, you have many genetic matches. If you've done these sites, you'll notice you have a lot of second cousins 3 times removed and
Mhm.
fourth cousins 7 times removed, and you don't recognize who anyone is. And so when I got this message, I thought, well, who is this woman? And what she wrote to me, she said, Laura, we share a surprising amount of DNA. Let me know if you'd like to talk. And I thought, well, gosh, I don't know what that's about. So I
Right.
went to go look at the predicted relationship that we had, and 23andMe it said we were half siblings. And if anyone listening to this has been through this scenario, you know how shattering that can be to your identity of
Mhm.
who you think you are, right?
Right.
We all grow up with the story of, this is my dad and this is my mom and this is the way life has been. And in my case, it was, Jen, it was shocking. It was shocking to
I bet.
even having the suspicion that maybe something was up. My parents had always denied it. So even having the suspicion, um, and seeing it is still incredibly shocking. And I ended up not just having one half sibling, but having 9.
Yeah.
And what I learned through the course of my own discovery is that my parents had to use a sperm donor because my father was unable to have children. And you can imagine, if we just put on our empathy lens for a second and look at that,
Yeah.
how challenging that must be for a man
Yeah.
to be unable to bear his own children
Mhm.
and procreate. And
Mhm.
so my parents really, really wanted a child. And so they went and, they went to their OB/GYN and they were able to conceive. So I'm donor conceived. And so all of my siblings, we all share a sperm donor.
Right.
And I think what's very interesting for me about this story is I was an only child, and
Yeah.
Jen knows that. She grew up with me. I was an only child. And I went in the course of a year from only child to big sister. And I got to be to date, maybe there's someone older than me. We haven't met them yet, but to date, the big sister to 8 sisters and 1 brother.
Yay.
And
You got one brother in there.
we got one. We got one. I know. And it is it's a really cataclysmic shift. And so when
Yeah.
we talk today about how do we reimagine our lives in the face of really big change, whether you've gone through a DNA change or you're going through a divorce or a
Mhm.
job loss,
Right.
or a change in some sort of status, whatever it may be,
Mhm.
the tools are the same. And
Mhm.
that's the good news, is that we don't need to reinvent the wheel every
Right.
time we
Right.
go through something. We can rely on some really great tools to help us thrive.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my goodness. What a surprise. And you've all
Yeah,
met and
I've met most of them.
stuff. Okay.
I think there are 3
Hmm.
at the date of this recording anyway that I have not yet met.
Oh.
Largely because we don't all live in Michigan. We're
Oh,
around the world,
yeah.
or I should say around the country. And so that just kind of makes it hard. And certainly
Right.
with coronavirus, that makes it even harder. But
Yeah.
what I will say is once I got over the shock of it, which took me a minute, uh,
I bet.
took me a minute to get over the shock of it. But once I got over the shock, what I could really see was what was truly there, which
Hmm.
was the gift
Oh
that
yeah.
was embedded inside of this huge challenge.
Hmm.
And the gift was for me as an only child, as someone who, and my parents, and my parents, Jen,
Yeah, yeah.
they're in their 70s and 80s right now. And
Hmm.
you watch your family, and if some people may have had this experience, it feels kind of like helping my parents walk home in
Yes.
many ways because
Yeah.
they're sick, they're getting older, and
Hmm.
we have to just recognize that our roles as child parent are shifting. And so
Hmm.
as I have watched and sort of witnessed my parents walk home,
Hmm.
I have also watched another door open. And it
Yeah.
was a great reminder to me of saying, Laura, you are never alone.
Oh, for
You will
sure.
always be provided for. And when the sun is setting in one area of your life, the sun is rising in another.
Yeah. Yeah. That's profound and very true.
Yeah.
And yes, and it gives you, I mean, I know it's an unusual sense of family, but because you have a pretty good sized family anyway. Remember the family gatherings when you were growing up. You have a lot of cousins and aunts and uncles
Yeah.
and whatnot. So that's very nice. But even more immediate now, you have more, siblings and people that someday when your parents do go home, it's like you can go visit, you can create a
Exactly.
relationship there.
And you have the choice to do that. And now,
Yeah,
like anything in life, we co-create our reality. So
sure.
I say that because sometimes, and listen, anything I preach, I'm guilty of. So we are all okay. So let me just
Right.
start with that.
Yeah.
We can often feel like victims of our history.
Yeah.
Okay, we can often feel victimized and feel like, why did this happen to me?
Hmm.
Why am I in this situation?
Yes.
This isn't fair.
Mhm.
And that really comes from a place of honestly deep ingratitude and being incredibly self-centered.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, and we all are by nature, I think, a little bit self-centered.
Yeah.
But yeah, the gratitude piece, we were discussing this earlier with another speaker too, is that it's really something you have to practice
Hmm.
because people forget.
What
When
if,
you're a kid, your parents tell you, say please, say thank you, but
right.
that's.
But that's not the same thing. And what I would encourage people to do who are watching this is to think about
Mhm,
when I'm in a really challenging situation,
mhm,
when I am in a change of season in my life and
right.
something is shifting,
Hmm.
I'm seeing a lot of challenge in that, right? Naturally, I'm being challenged.
Hmm.
But I want to encourage you
Hmm.
to see that there is an equal amount of support that is available to you,
Hmm.
and that finding and looking for that support in
Right.
that moment, that's a form of gratitude, is
Hmm.
really going to help you equilibrate what's going on, because we don't exist. No, first of all, nothing exists without support and challenge and equal amounts of it.
Hmm.
And also, we grow right at the border of support and challenge. So, for
Right.
those who are going through a season of change right now, this is such an exciting period
Hmm.
to grow, right? Because you're getting out of your comfort zone.
Hmm.
It's really cool. And so, where are the opportunities appearing? I want everyone, when you think about gratitude,
Hmm.
where are the opportunities appearing in my life?
Hmm.
Go pay attention to that,
Right.
because your intuition is something very important to show you and to tell you. And most of the time, we're not tapped in.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. I think people now, especially, what really rips us away from our intuition is that we have screens spoon feeding us everything.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just Google it. I won't really
Mm-hmm.
think about how I feel about it. I'll just find the solution out in the ether. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that there's a lot of disconnect.
We're completely divorced
Hmm.
from uh, thinking and feeling in our bodies is completely separate. So we have, since the age of the Industrial Revolution, we have
Yeah.
really glorified the mind.
Hmm.
And there's lots of great things about the mind, for
Hmm.
sure.
Hmm.
But in the process of doing that, we have also kind of forgot that there's a lot of stuff going on below the neck. There's a
Right.
whole body. There's a lot of somatic intelligence, body intelligence
Hmm.
that can also guide us. And your intuition will use that system to
Hmm.
help guide you. And I think that when we
Yep.
get used to not, first of all, everyone has intuition, period, end of story. And
Right.
I think that what happens is when people say a prayer or they ask for help
Hmm.
from, let's say, a higher power, which a lot of
Sure.
us believe in,
Hmm.
I want you to know that prayer is answered the minute you ask it.
Hmm.
But the problem is that people don't like what they hear.
So true.
So, right? So if
And
I
sometimes the
say,
answer is no. Sometimes
or
it's
the answer is no,
yeah.
and this is a really interesting thing to talk about. And this is a little tangent, but we can
It's
talk
okay.
about soul prayers and ego prayers.
Hmm.
Ego prayers are this: dear God, dear universe, I need you to give me a new car. I need a bigger house. I need to find someone who will love me. I'm scared to be alone. Gimme, 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 gimme. And
Right.
that prayer is answered immediately. And the answer to that prayer 9 times out of 10 is no.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Right.
then there's something else we call soul prayers. Soul prayers, and we can use this as a form of gratitude if it's helpful for you guys, is to say, I'm going through a really tough time
Mm-hmm.
and I need help right now.
Mm-hmm.
I need help understanding why this is happening. I need help seeing the path. I need the courage to move forward on what I am shown. Thank you for showing me how what is going on in my life is part of my destiny.
Mm-hmm.
That's a soul prayer. That prayer is answered immediately, and that the answer will come, and now you have to listen. Because if you don't like what you hear, well, you got the answer. But right? But sometimes
Right.
people don't like what they hear. Maybe the answer
Mm-hmm.
is it's time to finally leave that dead end job.
Mm-hmm. Or
It's
relationship
or
or what. Yeah.
relationship, or this experience you're in has run its course. You've learned what you can. It's time to go. And people never want to hear that answer because that immediately makes them uncomfortable. But that's where we grow, is right when we're uncomfortable, because new support will come in. You just can't see it yet because you haven't taken the first step.
Yeah. Yeah. And one of the speakers on our event here is also someone who works those helplines for people when they call in, like eMentor and Veterati, the sites that help, mentor people. She's a veteran, so she works with veterans.
Awesome.
But that's stepping out and seeking out those support mechanisms. There are so many of them. And
So
thankfully, the one benefit of the internet in particular is accessing those. There used to be, you really had to hunt and peck and go into a church or go somewhere and try to find a person or look in the yellow pages. Now there are so many options. And globally, you can get a coach across the world to help you with something. You just have to go seek it.
There's so much support.
There really is. So that's the beautiful piece of this, is that if you go looking for it, you can definitely find it now. Changing gears a little bit, I wanted to move into storytelling, because I love this aspect of your world, is that you're a storyteller by nature and also career and whatnot. And let's talk about, because I know this environment right now is so challenging for people, and a lot of it in the stories that they're going in their Facebook and they're reading a lot of negativity, or they're creating that negativity themselves and putting it out there. And I want to talk about story and how important it is to our survival sort of in this environment right now that we're finding ourselves in. So let's what do you have to say about storytelling?
Yeah. So we are storytelling creatures. It is the oldest form of communication. It is baked into our DNA. From the time we've seen the photos or the pictures of horses drawn on caves in France. That's one of the more ancient known forms of storytelling. This storytelling is core to our human being. It's core to understanding ourselves.
Cave drawings, yeah.
Yeah, and our place in the world.
Right.
So what I want everyone to know is that we are all storytellers. And the quality of your life is going to be largely dependent on the quality of the questions you're asking to create more resourceful stories about your life. So I have a choice. And this is where I want to help people to feel empowered, because I have a choice and you have a choice in co-creating your story.
Yes. 100%.
Okay.
Yes.
Now there's things that are going to happen, and I'm not going to, say that like nothing out there is not real. There's absolutely specific challenges that women face. There are absolutely specific challenges that people of color and Black people face. For sure, these things exist. The question is, knowing that that's the game we're playing, what move are you going to make?
Yeah.
If life is a game, what move are you going to, what move are you going to play? Okay. And that's how we become masters of our destiny, is saying, okay, I understand these are the challenges. I'm going to go look for the support. And if I am the hero or heroine of my journey, every hero needs a guide or mentor.
Yes.
So I would ask everyone listening, who are your guides? Who are your mentors along the way? Who is going to help you to slay the proverbial dragon that you're going to face on your path, because we all do. That's the only way we grow.
Yeah.
And so when we're looking at things, just to like really ground this, when we're looking at things on Facebook, when we're looking at the news, and I don't care what side of the aisle you're on, if wherever you stand, I am sure there are things that you're seeing that are bugging the heck out of you. Okay. Right?
Can't escape it right now. No.
Right.
Totally.
So the question then becomes, what do you want to give your attention to? Okay. Where do I want to put my energy?
Right.
And if what I'm reading is not resourceful, or the people I'm surrounding myself with are not helping me grow and self-actualize, I have to go find a new tribe. And that's it. That's it. I have never seen anyone ever say to me, hey, guess what? I got into a 5-hour comment thread argument on Facebook and I changed someone's mind. I've never heard of it.
You won't.
It doesn't happen.
No.
So please stop. I mean, like, it's not resourceful. It's not resourceful. Don't do it.
No.
You know, unless you really like arguing and antagonizing people and they like that as well, then you're a match made in hell. But like, you know, it's not going to change anything. And so why put energy? And so Jen, I just want to talk briefly about this, because this is a really important concept.
Yeah.
I want everyone to imagine that you start your day, and I just want you to imagine that there's 100 circuits of energy going up from the universe, down through your head, through your body, and they're kind of giving you life. And we're just going to go through that visualization. We're going to say, okay, I can see that. Now I want you to think, when I get up, where are my thoughts going? Where am I putting energy into certain thoughts? Where am I putting energy into certain fears? Am I putting energy into work? Am I putting energy into family? Am I putting energy into doubts? Am I putting energy into abundance? Where is it all going? And go through the list.
Yeah.
And you'll notice a lot of times when you do this that you're unconsciously giving a lot of energy away to things that don't serve you. So I would rather, when we talk about our story, when we talk about reclaiming who we are, where do you want to plug in? Where do you want your energy to plug into? Where do you want to go? And make that choice. Start to become more resourceful with how you spend your energy and time.
During this COVID crisis, I think a lot of people, their energy was they felt like it was immediately stolen. Like they were told where they could and couldn't go. In particular, you know, they couldn't leave their house, or they had all these restrictions placed upon them, and that immediately zapped their 100 lines of energy down to about 30.
Yep.
I think so many people were just feeling so drained by that alone, just that change, just that lack of control of where they thought they were going to be able to put that energy.
Huge cataclysmic change that we felt on a global scale.
Yeah.
And this is an event that I don't even know that we could say this is a once in a lifetime event, because I don't know that this happens every lifetime. I don't, I'm just not going to state that as a fact, but it is an extremely rare event that we have experienced communally. And I just want to honor for people who did, or maybe are still feeling overwhelmed by this, who are feeling bewildered. We see you.
Oh, 100%.
We see you. I understand. And because we have all felt it. And believe me, Jen, so the first thing is, please, everyone, give yourself permission to say, wow, that I'm scared. That was really scary for me. And maybe I lost my business. Maybe I've been forced to make very challenging shifts in my life. Okay.
Right.
Give yourself that permission to say, yeah, that was really hard. And then we're going to start looking at what are the opportunities that are appearing. So one area of your life is constricting. Okay.
Yes, exactly.
One area of your life is constricting. I want you now to begin to reframe that and say, what other areas of my life are expanding
Right.
in reaction to this?
Yeah.
Okay. Where is the expansiveness? Where is the abundance? Where is the bounty? I'll tell you what I have had from this experience. I don't think that I have ever had more fun
I know you
reconnecting.
have. I watch your
I know.
social. You're having a great time.
I'm having the time of my life, guys. I'm
Yeah.
having the time of my life. But
Yeah.
I've had a lot of fun building deeper connections with closer friends.
Yeah.
I've also taken this opportunity to say, there's a lot of people in my life that, I'm casually acquainted with that,
Mhm.
you know what? I don't really need to be as deeply connected with them anymore
Yeah.
because we don't have the venue or the place to go to be like kind of the buffer between the relationship. And it
Yeah.
helps you realize, well, who are the really important people in my life? I always
Mhm.
say that, I think it was Jim Rohn who said you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Yeah.
So who are you spending time with? Who are in your top 5, and expand and deepen those relationships, because
Okay.
that's where the gold is, and so those are some of the beautiful things. And of course, um, I think play is
Mhm.
largely a pathway to joy. And
Yeah.
so learning how to play in your life right now, even if you're trapped at home, there's no limits of things you can begin to play at,
Yeah.
whether that's dancing around your house, whether that's lying out on
Mhm.
the patio or the backyard or whatever may be, and taking a moment of mindfulness,
Mhm.
whether that's learning how to cook. My gosh, how many people have suddenly become like Michelin award-winning bakers here?
Bread bakers. Yeah, a lot of baking going on.
Right. They're
But that's
playing, they're
great. I mean,
having
why not learn
fun.
it?
Play, play,
Yeah.
play, play. Yeah,
Yeah.
very important.
My girlfriend had her kids memorizing poetry because she was homeschooling, but they were loving it. They would be like, give us another poem, give us another poem. And I love
Yeah,
that because I thought, how expansive is that? Because
so
there's
beautiful.
some beautiful work out there that maybe they wouldn't have learned if they were just in a classroom, whereas they went and found some things that were maybe a little outside the box. And so yeah, I love that about some of the creativity that I've seen, and I try to
Yeah.
focus on that because I just really think it's great. I mean, and you've got Amy with her photography constantly
Oh, I
taking.
know. I mean, and I live in a house. Yeah. So for the audience who doesn't know, I live in a house with a very respected photographer who is photographing our life, for various publications and things.
Yeah.
And what's really fun about that
Yeah.
is I just lean into it. I'm like, okay, you want
Yeah.
to take a photograph? Let's do something fun in this one. Why
Yeah.
not? Because
Yeah.
that's a part of our essence too. We've forgotten that as adults. We forget how to play because we're always outcome focused, goal focused. What if there's no goal?
Yeah. Just take the
Just have
goal out of
fun.
it. What do you really want to
Yeah.
do
Yeah,
for
exactly.
this moment?
Suddenly life becomes really fun when I don't have to constantly be driving towards a specific outcome. That's very a very masculine energy way
Yeah.
of thinking, which is useful in certain scenarios. We do need to drive towards things at front
Yeah.
time,
We're
but
adults. We have to be responsible.
totally.
Yeah.
But we have lost largely the gift of receiving.
Mhm.
Okay. So how can I receive joy? How can I be a vessel for play and pleasure and fun in my life,
Yeah.
with no outcome other than I laugh? Wow. What a way of
Yeah.
thinking.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially in a stressful time when things are changing. To call that in and just say, time out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to just have fun for a minute. Like, I think TikTok
Yeah.
has saved a lot of sanity because people are just
Oh,
like
for
full of
sure.
balls on there. And you get the most likes, the more goofy you are, or the more.
Oh my gosh. I watched one yesterday, and TikTok is giving me life. I watched one yesterday with this guy who made his own limoncello. This has been going around on the internet, guys, so you can Google it. But he made his own limoncello, and he was doing a tasting on TikTok. And I guess it was just pure alcohol. And his reaction is absolutely priceless. I was crying. I couldn't stop laughing, and I thought, thank you for
Yeah.
this. This is such a beautiful gift to give people humor,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah. I
I love
seek
to
it out a
laugh.
lot.
So
Well, me too. And I do find myself, I seek out humor a lot. My daughter's just like, she has the next room from me in the house. She's like, Mom, what is so freaking funny? And I'm like, well, sorry, I'm just seeking out something. I needed some humor. So I found something
yeah,
to laugh about. I purposefully do that. I just go
that's
with the flow.
awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, I want to shift gears for a second because there's
Hmm.
another really interesting thing that you do. And then we'll talk about the podcast as well. I want to make sure we get that in. So you use tarot and storytelling for self-care. And I love this part of it because storytelling is one aspect, but using the cards has been so fascinating for me. I knew what it was, but I never really knew how to use it. Okay. It's something that you see and you think, oh, the lady in the long skirts and the drapey.
Right. Like I've got a turban on and, right.
And it's been fascinating for me, especially because some of the cards that you've drawn, I went, oh, okay, well, that's really frighteningly accurate. So, I just wanted you to maybe tell people a little bit about that methodology because I think that it's really interesting.
Yeah, and thanks for bringing that up, Jen. So here's what I want to say. There's a lot of people, and I had this as well, grow up with some preconceived notions of what tarot is. A lot of people think it's evil or scary or it's going to predict when I die or all that kind of stuff. And so we're not talking about that right now. We're talking about using tarot as a tool for storytelling to help you make more empowered decisions about your life. Yeah. There are 78 cards in a tarot deck. It's a very specific system, and it's actually a game. Yeah. So what I love about tarot is that, to our previous point, it is a form of play. Okay. Yes. We're just playing when we pull cards. Now, the 78 cards that you pull in a tarot deck, they have different meanings. There's a system involved. Yeah. And those cards represent certain archetypes. Those would be sort of generalized ways of being in the world that we all experience. That's why when you get a tarot reading, it can feel like someone's talking to you because you inevitably have experienced something that I have, maybe in a different way. Yeah. So when we pull cards as a self-care, a form of self-care, what we're really doing is we're looking at the card and we're saying, okay, what can I learn from this card? It's helping me to think in a different way. It's giving me a specific perspective. What can I learn and apply it to my life? How can I take this element that is being shared with me and become really intentional about how I treat myself and treat others in the world? That's why it's a form of self-care. So many people, Jen, are, and you know this, so many people are just not self-aware. I mean, I can't even people who say I'm self-aware, but then they blame everyone else for their life, they are not self-aware. Right. And so tarot gives us an opportunity as a tool to just say, okay, let's bring some awareness to this aspect of myself that I haven't been paying attention to, or I've minimized, or I haven't flexed a lot. So it's really cool. And there is, in my opinion,
it goes deep, I think. Yes.
Yeah, it can go very deep. I mean, and I don't think there's anything scary about it at all. No. I just think it's a really cool tool. And you don't, the one thing I'll say about tarot is, you can pick up a card and read it, that's fine, but you can also work with someone who's very experienced with understanding the meanings of the cards and helping ask you questions in certain ways to help go a little deeper. So that's, you can pick up cards and pull them and say, oh, I wonder what this is about. What is it showing me? Mm-hmm. But you can also work with someone as well. So it doesn't have to be out of reach for any individual.
Yeah, no, I found it fascinating because it does help you illuminate just using that storytelling aspect of the cards. It's almost like stepping out of yourself for a minute and saying, over here, if I'm looking at myself from this perspective or the situation from this perspective, what does that do to it? And it definitely makes your mind work differently. So that's
exactly. And that's why when we talk about storytelling, the whole key, and you just hit upon it, is getting yourself to have more perspective on your story. See, when we're in the story, we're often in the emotion of the story. We're in the fear of the story. When we can pull ourselves out and say, okay, I want to look at this from another angle, and I want to see what my resources are, and I want to rally my troops. What could I do? Then it brings a lot of levity to the situation. It brings a lot of play to the situation. And we get out of our heads, which is really cool.
Yeah, definitely. I've enjoyed that a lot. Also, you've got a very popular podcast, an Apple podcast, Brave by Design, which I want to talk about because there's been some really great, just the ones that I've listened to, I just get so engrossed because you're a very good conversationalist and you really draw a lot out of your speakers, which is amazing. but also just, you had one recently on thriving through job change with Marty
Mm-hmm.
Constant, who's a futurist and a best-selling author as
Mm-hmm.
well. And so I wanted to share, because that's a whole nother type of life change that people are probably going
Mm-hmm.
through significantly right now. I'm sure there's some learning that you got from that conversation. I wanted to see if you could enlighten us a little bit, and that'll give us a little taste of Brave by Design as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we do on the show every week is I tend to bring on experts in their field to help ambitious women live well and lead well.
Yeah.
And this show with Marty was really cool because she is a futurist and she's got her finger on the pulse of what's happening in business right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what I love about Marty's approach to career
Mm-hmm.
is many of us grew up under a model of I'm going to get a degree and then I'm going to get a job and this is what I'm going to do. And we can feel very constrained and trapped
Yeah.
in that little box that we've put ourselves in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what Marty talks a lot about in that episode is, well, what if I want to try something a little bit different in my career? Maybe I have a lot of skills in this area, but I want to give them a different application.
Right.
She talks about how to test out and try out different things within your job, different things within your career, and to use what we call an agile approach. And that's really an approach used in software development. And to just briefly explain that, what that means is, you know, we keep iterating, we keep creating new versions of things, we see what we plug in what works, we remove what doesn't work, and then we just keep moving forward. So if anyone remembers back in the day when we had our Windows Vista come out, or Windows 95, yes, we are that old. Back in the day, we got really excited because it was one huge release, okay? That's called the waterfall method of product development.
Yeah.
And so what happens in waterfall is there's a huge launch, something comes out, and inevitably, what did we all do? We found a million bugs with it, and then 3 years later, they come out with a new product to fix the bugs, and then 3 years later, they come out. That's a really old way of doing business, and it's actually not a great way to work. So when we apply that to ourselves, when we apply the Agile method, we're constantly updating, we're constantly upgrading, we're constantly taking out the bugs, putting in new features. Think about your life that way, right? Again, here's another story. What is not serving me? I'm going to sort of remove it and try something else and see what happens. Okay.
Yeah.
And so she talks a lot about how to design your career in that way. It doesn't have to be huge tectonic shifts that, reshape the course of your life. Okay. It does not have to be that. Small, iterative approaches to change is really where we can find a lot of success. And also, as she says, can prevent us from making cataclysmic errors or mistakes in how we work. Because if I have an idea and I don't test it and I don't validate it and I run with it, what happens if it doesn't pan out? Why don't we test it out the waters? So applying that to your career can be really powerful. And we just go into all that on the episodes. It's really fun.
Yeah, so definitely, you guys, check it out, because there's a lot of really great explorative subjects, and there's an episode on storytelling, which I loved, which again is just pure genius, and really about how we're framing our stories. And I think everyone needs to really be more circumspect in this age right now, and a lot more thoughtful, and just taking different perspectives on where they are, and not getting so. I'm really in this mode of helping people get unstuck and keep moving. And I love this approach of doing those. It's almost
take a little
like
step,
an update to your iPhone, right? You get a couple new things, they take off a couple things that don't work. Just think about life as making updates.
Well, exactly. And to your point, Jen, if you want to make big changes in your life, it starts with the first step. And I know that is a cliche and it's been said a lot, but it is really true. And so that's why people say it. So if everyone did it, we could finally stop saying that stupid thing. But the fact is, one step at a time, and that is a small step. And it does not need to be blowing up your whole life. It can just be, I'm going to do one thing differently today and see how it works out. That's it.
Well, and exactly, that's to that point. I mean, even with doing this event, when I first thought of the idea, it was 5 years ago. But 5 years ago, I didn't know what the steps were that were involved. And 5 years ago, it looked like you said, a tectonic shift. I didn't have the
Right.
support. I didn't have any of this in place that I needed to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was working 6 days a week. So I'm like, how in the world am I ever going to accomplish this gigantic shift in my business
Mm-hmm.
and still keep, all these other things, all the other balls in the air? Well, then COVID happened, and I already had been doing all those little bits of research along the way. So I had everything
Yep.
ready. So at least when this gigantic cataclysm occurred, I had something immediately to fill in because I'd been building
Mm-hmm.
little by little by little by little. And then I had the bandwidth and time to actually sit down and do the research. But one of the biggest things that my coach said, and it's so true because I'm watching people even in the program get stymied, is they try to do too much. She's like, you
Mm-hmm.
have to stay in the step that you're in. You have to stay in the step that you're in. And it's so key because you jump too far ahead, you'll get lost. There's a lot of people that
Right.
just try to do too much at once.
Exactly.
Take your step, be in that step, and then take the next most recent step and be in that step.
Can I just say something, Jen? Because you
Totally.
said something really important there. Many really important things, but a couple I want to highlight.
Yeah.
One, you released from a preconceived outcome of when this had to happen.
Yes.
Okay, so a
Away.
lot of people say, again, a very masculine energy thing. I have to do this in this timeline that I have determined.
Yeah.
Well, why do you have to do it in that timeline? What is the reasoning behind that?
Right.
I'm not saying don't have timelines, but really question yourself.
Yeah.
Second, when you did that and you took this small iterative approach to learning one step at a time over the course of time, you had a huge opportunity open up the perfect timing for you.
Oh, totally did.
Which you wouldn't have had if you kept pushing.
Mm-mm.
So instead of pushing, you're receiving. And it's like, okay, it becomes so much easier when we can receive and listen instead of constantly grinding our way forward. Because sometimes, and we have all felt this, sometimes things don't happen on the timelines that we have determined are right for us.
Oh, yeah.
You
Totally.
cannot push a timeline.
And I'm guilty of this. I was kicking myself all the time saying this needs to happen.
Yep.
And so there was a lot of energy wasted. Again,
Yes.
of my 100 strings, there was always one over here turning.
Just beating yourself up. Oops, sorry about that. Just beating
Yeah.
yourself up. Like, why haven't I done this? Why haven't I done? Well, there's a lot of good reasons you didn't do it.
But now in hindsight, every little step that I took along the way, as I was building my business, I was learning all these computer programs that I needed to know to accomplish this. How to do all these databasing and tracking programs to do what I'm doing. So all of it fell into place exactly when it was supposed to fall into place. But the preparative steps, the steps leading up to it really did happen almost inadvertently. Sometimes we don't know it until it's upon us. And then we go, oh, I really was preparing for that. So a lot of people who do a lot of beating themselves up, maybe you're just in the preparing stage. Maybe you're in the preparing time. Maybe you're, you know what I mean? Like you have to let go of that just to allow yourself to be in preparation for it.
Exactly.
Because it'll come. So that's definitely been a learning in this. And I think it'll affect a lot more people a lot more favorably than if I tried to do it at that point. Because I didn't have the life experience to interject into it.
So this is the perfect moment.
I know. So
funny how that works out.
I know, right? And then plus we had reconnected too through amazing networking. Some women that are just geniuses. I love our Detroit women.
Yes, that's awesome.
Yeah. So I want to come around to, so as part of this event, all of our guests are doing a sort of a free give, a give back, or linking to something that can be helpful, obviously, to the guest that's going through, the watchers, viewers that are going through life changes. So Laura's got a Habit of Courage masterclass coming out.
Yep.
And it'll be available through her website. It's bravebydesign.net, and it will be available there. And we'll put the information on this page as well when this presentation launches in August. And so you can access that. But Laura will be making that available to our viewers at that time. And any last thoughts, Laura, about things that we should definitely, what have we missed that we need to put forth to our viewers today about change?
I just want to again highlight something you just talked about, which is that everything happens in the right timing. And so if you're feeling like this is not the right timing, I want you to look at reasons for why this is absolutely perfect.
Mhm.
Because when we can get into that point of gratitude for how things are as they are right now,
Mhm.
then we're really present. We're no longer living in um, anger or wishful thinking about the past or regrets of the past, and we're not living in fantasies of the future. We're finally saying, this moment is actually perfect, and I'm so glad that I'm here for this. And that opens up our intuition to help teach us what's next and where to go and where we are on our path. So I encourage everyone for that gratitude practice. Why is now absolutely perfect, exactly as it is. Good luck.
I
And if you'd
love
like,
that.
and we're going to talk about that more in the Habit of Courage Masterclass, because I do believe courage is a muscle,
Mhm.
and I will teach you how to flex your courage muscle to get more confidence, clarity, and obviously courage in
Yeah.
your life.
Yeah, that's amazing. Oh, this is going to be exciting. So definitely tune into that. If you guys have the time and bandwidth, definitely Laura's a great teacher and she's got some great insights. So that's going to be an amazing class. I want to thank you so much, Laura Khalil, for your time today. And obviously remind everyone to tune in to Brave by Design, her podcast. It's also available at bravebydesign.net. So please tune in. That's on a regular basis. So you can definitely
Every Tuesday.
driving in your car, or whatever you need on a Tuesday, Brave by Design. And also, of course, our 21 days Thrive Through Life Change event. Obviously, keep listening. We've got lots of amazing speakers like Laura and others who will help you working on overcoming all these transitions and all this insanity right now, coming out the other side with success and energy and some new vision. And this is Jen and Laura Khalil signing off. Have
Thanks,
a great
everyone.
day. We'll see you soon.